Hi, this is Mariette Hartley, and you are listening to TV Confidential.
Ed Robertson with a reminder that the next edition of TV Confidential will premiere next week on this station at the usual time. If all goes well, we will welcome back Stephanie Powers, the actress known around the world as Jennifer Hart on Heart to Heart. In the meantime, and on the line with us right now, is our friend James Rosen. Jim Rosen, actor, author, and the writer and producer of Philly Hoops, the SPHAs and the Warriors, an excellent documentary on the birth of pro basketball in the city of Philadelphia, including a look at the Philadelphia SPHAs, the first professional basketball team in Philadelphia, and a look at the early years of the Philadelphia Warriors, the NBA franchise now known as the Golden State Warriors. Philly Hoops, available on DVD through Amazon.com as well as MovieZing.com, MovieZyng, MovieZing.com. As we went to break, Jim and I were talking about some of the differences between how pro basketball was played in the first couple of decades in the NBA and how it's currently played today. It is interesting to get the take of the players in the early game, in the early days of the NBA, when it was a much different game than it is today, and that is one of the great things about Philly Hoops, because it not only gives viewers the backdrop of how important basketball was in the city of Philadelphia in the early 20th century, but also a capsule history of the game of basketball in the NBA in the early years of the league.
Yeah, I remember Paul Ireson saying to me, he said he felt that we were doing a nostalgia event together at a shopping center in South Jersey, and he was there with his grandkids signing autographs, and we were talking about this, and he said that there's today's game, it's so different, a lot of what you see are guys getting open on switching defenses and taking open jump shots. He said, in my day, you had to work more to get open and get your shot. And when you did, there was more driving to the basket, more layups made. He said, there's too much emphasis on the three-point shot. He said, a lot of players depend upon it, and when they're not hitting, they have a bad night. They would score much closer to the basket in his day to compensate, and on defense, the theory in his day was what we just mentioned. That's your man. If you can't stop him, we'll get somebody in there that can.
I want to talk a little bit about the SPHAs before we wrap, because not only were they the first professional team in Philadelphia, but they were one of the best teams, certainly one of the best teams on the East Coast. They held the NBA as we know it today didn't exist back then. There were often exhibitions against teams like the Boston Celtics, and the SPHAs would hold their own. And the SPHAs often, they not only played the Harlem Globetrotters many years, they beat the Globetrotters a few times, that's no mean feat.
Yeah, that was Red Klotz, who was he was a wonderful guy, dear friend. He played with the SPHAs in the 40s, and then he started coaching. He was coaching the SPHAs one season when they beat the Globetrotters, and Abe Saperstein, who owned the Globetrotters, said, "Why don't you create your own team?" And it was Red Klotz who created the Washington Generals, who played the Harlem Globetrotters all those years in exhibition games and toured all over the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Red was still playing. I played at a playground in Margate, New Jersey, in the 90s, the pickup games, and who do you think was covering me or playing on my team at age 90? Red Klotz, shooting set shots from 25 and 30 feet and making them. The guy obviously was well conditioned and took care of his body and was in very good shape even into his 90s. Wonderful man.
What was
terrific human being? Red Klotz.
I don't remember his name, but you have a former Harlem Globetrotter was among the commentators in Philly hoops. I don't remember. I mean, I don't remember whether he played for the SPHAs or the Warriors, but I know that he has a number of memories of the SPHAs playing the Globetrotters.
Yeah, Frank Washington. He was a Philadelphian. That was his connection. That he played for the Globetrotters, and he was here in Philly. And he played against Gola and Arizona in different leagues and pick-up leagues and things. He was a terrific guy. He was a center. Yeah. So many colorful people. Dave Zinkoff, too, we never mentioned him. He was the announcer, and he later stayed with the 76ers. He was the guy that was very famous when they were announcing lineup and said, "Nantulia serving." You know, he was a character from the word go. He started with the Warriors, and he would give out salamis as door prizes to the Warrior games and hand out programs, and he was like the team mascot, and then he became the public address announcer and the promotional director. He was terrific when they would go on tours in that 8-seat Ford touring car that Gotti had. He would lie in between the seats, lie down because there was no room for him to sit. He would lie down in between the seats, and the players loved him. You know, he was a very, very colorful man, Dave Zinkoff, and for many years he was the public address announcer for the 76ers.
Plus, from a marketing standpoint, particularly in the first decade of the NBA, there were often doubleheaders scheduled in neutral cities, and this would never happen today because the NBA is such a recognizable brand. But back in the back in the mid 50s, the early years of the league, you'd have double headers scheduled in various cities across the country, and the marquee game was not the NBA game. The marquee game was the Harlem Globetrotters game.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Interesting point. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. That's very interesting. Yeah, you know, in the early days of the NBA, there was actually the first year the NBA was in existence in 1949. They had 17 teams. By 1954, there were only 8 left. But one of the teams was the Tri-City Blackhawks. They played in 3 different cities because they had to survive, to build up an audience. They didn't have an audience to meet the payroll in one city. The next city may have made up for it. So they traveled. They were out in the Midwest, three different cities. Hence the name Tri-City Blackhawks.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Nima Persoff. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Is there anything else about your documentary, Philly Hoops, Jim, that you want our listeners to know about that I have not asked you?
No, I would just say if you're a basketball aficionado, a basketball junkie, and you have a penchant for learning about the NBA history and the way the game was played then, you know, a lot of passing and running and defense-minded players and a lot of camaraderie, mid-range jump shots. It was a fun game to watch, you know. I think you'll love this documentary, and I'm so grateful that, you know, Paul Arison and Tom Gola were still alive then, and they were able to contribute. Harvey Pollack, Red Klotz, Frank Washington. I really had some of the early Warrior players. Jerry Rollo was a lovely man. Angelo Musi later became the timekeeper for the Warriors. I was very fortunate, you know, and then afterward I was able to go around to a lot of the synagogues and do a dissertation on the history of the SPHAs and the Warriors and sell books afterward, and then when the DVD came out, I would sell the DVDs at different places. So it was a terrific experience for me, you know, doing those 2 documentaries. I really have fond memories of what I did. I don't know if I would be able to do that now, you know.
Both Philly Hoops, the SPHAs and the Warriors, the birth of pro basketball in the city of Philadelphia, and The Philadelphia Athletics, 1901 to 1954. Both those DVDs by our friend Jim Rosen, available on DVD at Amazon.com as well as MovieZing.com. Jim Rosen, always a pleasure to chat with you. I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you so much, and continued success with all those wonderful books you've done on the FBI and Maverick, and the list goes on.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson, thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode.
Hi, guys and girls. This is Kathleen Bradley, and you are listening to TV Confidential.
A reminder that To Thorough, The Lives and Love of actors Barry Morse and Sidney Sturgis, available for purchase at Amazon in the U.S., Canada, and in the UK, as well as many other online retailers. Anthony Wynn and Robert Wood also produced the short film The Return of Victor Bergman, which was recently released on Blu-ray by Anderson Entertainment as part of the Space 1999 Super Space Theater Collector's Edition Blu-ray. Barry Morse filmed that piece just before his death in 2008. Space 1999 Super Space Theater Collector's Edition Blu-ray, now available. JerryAnderson.com for more on Barry Morse. BarryMorse.com. Also a reminder that Philly Hoops, the SPHAs, and the Warriors, documentary by Jim Rosen about the birth of pro basketball in the city of Philadelphia and the early years of the NBA, available on DVD, Amazon.com, as well as MovieZing, Z-Y-N-G, MovieZing.com. Ed Robertson, Tony Figueroa, Donna Allen, Phil Grice, and Susan Silver. Thank you so much for listening. Stay healthy, stay safe. We'll talk to you next time on TV Confidential.